Okay, this is packed. Didn't expect that, but nice that you're all here. So I hope you won't all fall asleep from like post-lunch digestive issues. But yeah, let's get started. So for those that don't know me, just in 2 words, I'm from Belgium. I live in Switzerland now, and I do Symfony 2 development and consulting. So that's about that. So today we'll talk, as I said, not about Composer, but about application monitoring. And in this particular case, I've been kind of taking the opportunity to add monitoring to packages, so it's still slightly connected, but yeah. So first of all, like, why would you want application monitoring? I think, like, the main issue, for me at least, is that applications get more and more complex, and you have, maybe you have like background processes, you have, you know, those many things that talk over like message queues or what do I know. And like, it's really hard to test the thing as a whole. Like, testing that when you do this, a message is passed, and when the message is received, like, you can test everything in isolation, but ultimately, like, testing the entire system is practically impossible. So having monitoring is maybe not a way to fix problems directly, but it's a way to see things before they, like, to see things as fast as possible when things go bad, and also to maybe also spot problems up front. Like, say, if you monitor the disk space, probably you want a warning when, like, before the disk is full, and not just when everything goes down because it's full. So those were my reasons. I don't know, maybe you have others. I guess there are many different types of applications. So, but I think no matter the reasons, it's an interesting topic. So I wanted to ask a bit, like, what kind of monitoring do you have right now? Like, who uses nothing at all? I mean, don't be shy. I was there 2 months ago. There was pretty much nothing happening there. So, I mean, I kind of did the talk. I submitted it before I had anything set up, so I had to do it, because otherwise I come here and I look like an ass. So it kind of worked. It's not as good as I wanted it to be, but at least I did something. So no shame. Okay. I don't know, who does system monitoring then? Okay, so that's quite a lot of people. So there are many tools. I can't even list them all. I mean, this is really the oldest tools, I guess, are for just system monitoring. Who does performance in business metrics? It's still quite a lot of you. Cool. There is StatsD that I will mention shortly, but like, yeah, and others as well that do similar things. Error reporting, that's maybe, yeah, okay. It's like, I don't know, I can't really keep track of who raises hands, but is it mostly the same people so far? Or like, who raised their hands every time? Okay. Okay, so we have like a group of people that do a lot of these things, and the others don't, maybe. That's okay. So I think New Relic is the only thing I could think of. Like, anyone uses something else for error reporting? Sentry does that as well? Okay, that's the thing. There are so many tools, they do so many things. But yeah, okay. Then log aggregation. Okay, not so many people. Oh, you're getting tired. I don't know. There are many tools as well. Like, the whole thing is full of tools. And finally, like, I would say for rendering, this is not really about collection, but there are also many targets to actually display the data you collect. So, so yeah, we have all this, and that's like part of the problem is that you go, oh, okay, take data for this, like for the system monitoring, it sends there, and you just, I mean, I think it's easy to end up with a really messy system that's very hard to maintain. and that it's very hard, like pretty much nobody knows really how the whole thing works. So yeah, what would Jesus do is the question, and Jesus don't care. So thankfully there's Mozilla, and Mozilla started working on Heka, I think, earlier this year. So it's not such an old project. I'll get back to that. And that was one of their early presentations. They had this quote in, so they really said, okay, like they have this problem as an organization. Mozilla is pretty big. They have many websites, many services, and yeah, monitoring everything is just ending up in this very tangled situation where nobody knows what's going on. So, all right, let's dive into Heka. First of all, if like who knows Logstash? Okay, that's quite a few people. Well, I would say it's like Logstash in a way, but cooler because I don't know, it's newer, so it's shinier, right? So it's definitely inspired by Logstash. Like it works somewhat on the same principles. But what I like is that it's not in Ruby. It's not really to bash on Ruby, but the thing is, I don't deploy Ruby anywhere, and for me, it's a pain to have to set up Ruby, set up the whole thing. Like, it's just overhead, and also Ruby is not exactly known for being fast and lightweight. So, yeah, I mean, if it would be in PHP, it would be the same kind of problem, I guess. It's just, I don't think it's the best tool for a lightweight solution that collects things in the background. So Go is a lot nicer for that. It doesn't have so many dependencies. Like you can, just install one package. You have Heka running, and you're done. And finally, it's really mostly glue. Like it's a bit like PHP, where your applications are just like reading data from there and sending it there, and it's just fairly simple middleman thing. So that's the basic principle. It just you have a lot of inputs on the left. So it can be like any of those things I mentioned before, and they all get into Heka in some way. Right now there are a few options, but it's getting more and more it supports more and more things. And then you have the output side, which is again many targets to render the data or just to store it somewhere else. And it also supports this router model, so you can actually have like multiple servers with Heka running locally that maybe reads the log files or just accept statsd data, and then like aggregates it all into one big Heka cluster. And you can also chain that. I think at Mozilla they actually have like a central node per data center. So they have one on every server. Then it aggregates on one in the main data center node, and then they aggregate all the main ones into one location where they store everything. So that allows for quite an efficient system. And what Heka looks like inside is this. So you have, it's fairly simple, but you just have those inputs, which again read from things. And at this point, you just have a blob of data, which is really not not standardized. Then you have a first pass of decoders, which you have to specify for every input that kind of convert the raw data into something standard, which is the Heka messages. Then you have filters that can do, well, it sounds like they only filter, but they actually can aggregate messages and produce new messages themselves. So it's more powerful than just a filter. So the name is a bit confusing, I think, but that's that. And then finally, it's output back into the system somewhere else. So yeah, I guess I said all that, huh? Yeah, pretty much. And finally, the plugins, mostly now it's, so I mean plugins being like any of these four input, decoder, filters, outputs. These are now mostly in Go, but they're starting to convert some of them to Lua, and like as I mean, yeah, so both are supported equally, and you can just write Lua as well, which is maybe a bit simpler to dive into than Go if you have no experience with either. I think Lua is fairly simple to do basic manipulation of data. All right, and then at the end, that's perfect picture. Everything is organized, and it's beautiful. No, I don't know. I don't know why they do that. It's the Google data center. I don't really think it looks like this, but I think it's just PR campaign. So what kind of plugins do we have? We have, as I mentioned, that's the input. The Elasticsearch output will then store things in Elasticsearch. There, one thing that's pretty interesting is that you can use Kibana. So Kibana is the front end for Logstash. And the latest version of it, which is not really a version yet, I mean, it's the upcoming dev something that doesn't work really well. The nice thing is it's just plain HTML, and it connects directly to Elasticsearch. So you don't need to host anything really. It's just static files, and then you're set. So you install Elasticsearch and serve some static files, and so that's pretty cool. So it supports the Logstash format, so you can directly use Kibana as if it was Logstash actually sending it data, like it doesn't know any better. Then you have AMQP stuff, which right now is the only way to have actually secure server-to-server communication, because there are like TCP and UDP outputs and inputs, but those I think they support signing on the receiving end, but not on the sending. So you actually can't really authenticate anything. So theoretically anyone can send you data into your system, which is not so nice, but it's not really critical either, I guess. I mean, as long as you don't have phone calls at 2 a.m. for when something goes wrong, then maybe at that point you don't want anyone to be able to do that. Then the process input is pretty cool. It just runs a process every X seconds and takes whatever the output is as a message. And that I've used that to kind of replicate like Nagios collect D style just system metrics. So I just have a little shell script that reads tons of stuff and outputs it, and then 5 lines of Lua code to actually take this and turn it into a Heka message. And then there is a lot more, but I think these are the interesting ones for now. So usage, the configuration language is Toml. It's like this sort of YAML without the weird syntax, all these strange things you can do with YAML that you probably don't know about, but there they just don't exist. So it's like an ini file, but simpler, I guess, with less possible for failure. So it looks like this. So here I have just as an example, this would be reading the log file output from Monologue, so the standard output you get from a Symfony application. So you see you start with defining the input, you have the log file obviously, and then you assign it a decoder, and that decoder here it just has these regular expressions to match a log line, and that's it. It's not very smart because it doesn't detect the context information at the end. So, if you have advanced logging, this will just throw it all in the message. But you could do maybe a Lua decoder then to have a bit more flexibility and being able to actually parse this information. Then, you can also configure on the decoder this severity map, which I want to get this in, this should be the default, I think, because this makes no sense that you have to redefine this every time, but But those are like the standard RFC something log levels that syslog does. So it's the same we have in Monlog, and it's so it maps 1-to-1. It's very simple. And then finally, you can define the fields you want to output in the message. So those, the % replacements there are like placeholders for matching groups in the regular expression. And finally there, just a little trick. If you set the payload to an empty string, then it actually erases the payload. Otherwise, the payload always contains like the raw message. But the thing is, with the log lines, like you have, you know, all these lines, and then you parse it, and in the end, like you already have the channel and the message here. Having a copy of it in the payload is really useless. And like I'm parsing all the Nginx logs right now, and it's like the index in Elasticsearch, I think, is around 1 gig of data per day. So it grows quite quickly. So I think like trying to optimize the size is probably good. Then finally, like just sample output. So as I said, like the TCP one, for now you can't really, like it's not so good. It doesn't do retrying very well. So if the master node goes down and comes back up, it won't actually reconnect. It just like stops. So I had a few problems with that where I messed up. I restarted it and forgot to restart the other one, and like for one day I lost completely the whole data. But yeah, it's very young, so it's getting there slowly. Then you have this notion of message matcher, which is pretty interesting. So this bit is kind of like Go, just plain Go code that will be evaled. I think it's not really evaled, but just looks like it. So you have access to all the message fields, like the type in this case, and you just filter based on that. So you say, okay, like all the messages that match this or that, or in this case, it's more like a blacklist. They will get sent to by this output. And then I always have this log output, which is like just sending to standard out. Because when you're testing stuff and like, you know, it gets sent, maybe, you don't know, and then it gets on the other side, it's sent into the Elasticsearch, and then it doesn't show up in your dashboard, and you have no idea what the hell is going on, and like diving into the Elasticsearch data is not the easiest thing, especially when you have the Nginx logs that go like, it's just filling the entire thing. So having that is nice. You just switch the type of the message to test, and it just appears in the output. So it's pretty good for debugging. Okay, so I want to show a few screenshots of like the current setup I have. Just hopefully it's interesting. So that's like the current full page with all the graphs, and I guess you can't see anything. But I can zoom in. So the first part, for those that don't know Kibana, it's like you have up there just a time picker, so you can say, okay, I want to see this range of time. That's kind of a problem right now. Like one issue I have is that if I try to view more than 2 days, or like maybe 7 days is still working, but past that, I'm usually killing the Elasticsearch server, because there is one index per day, so one search index per day that contains data, and so it does like one query per day that the time span is covering. And so, like, given the amount of graph there, like if you ask for 20 days, it means 20 queries times, I don't know, another 20 maybe, and it's just like, it's, I don't know what exactly it's doing, but it just starts crunching the CPU like crazy, and at some point I just kill it because it doesn't seem like it's going to recover from it. So that's an issue, but I think the problem there is that maybe sending all the log data from Nginx is not the best idea, because you end up like, as you see here, like just to show this, that was 1 day, right? So this 1 day graph, you have like 1.5 million hits. So it actually has to scan 1.5 million results in the search index and just return some aggregate like per, so here you see it's like the count per 5 minutes. So it just gets everything, groups hit by 5 minutes, and then returns you the counts per 5 minutes. And I guess using something like statsd that kind of pre-aggregates data, so you would have only like maybe 1 value per second or 1 value per minute. So you would just have like small numbers instead of just the entire data set. That's probably a better idea for the long term. I mean, it's interesting though, as you'll see later. Oh yeah, I wanted to also show, like, you have those queries up there, which are saved queries. That's something that's not perfect yet, I think. It's like, as you know, there's many of them there, and it gets kind of confusing. And then every graph is reading 1 or more queries to display. And so, yeah, it can become a bit confusing. So I hope this will improve. What the hell is going on there? Whoa. So that's, yeah, slides in a browser. That's okay. The second part, I have the request per second for the Redis server, the memory usage, etc. And then we start seeing more like, yes, that's memory usage of the machine. So you have a bit more system metrics. And then these things, well, okay, this one is the application log, so just the error log. So all the yellow is just the error level, so mostly 404s. And the little red spots are actually application errors, like an exception was thrown. And so there shouldn't be too much red. It's usually bad. Then those two, so we see there the downloads of the Windows installer and the Composer updates. So Composer updates being like one person running Composer update on their machine. So those are actually a nice side effect of storing all the data of the Nginx log, is that I can query for like the logs that have /packages.json as the URL, because that's the first thing that Composer hits when you do an update. So I know, like, these queries represent updates fairly accurately. And we see that, yeah, we get like 300 updates on average per 5 minutes. So I can't count anymore because I didn't sleep much last night, but it's kind of a lot. Like, it's interesting to see, but especially the Windows setup. I don't know if I messed up the stats there. It seems insanely high to me that, like, over 3 hours you have like maybe 100 on average. The people that download the exe. Yes, you have a question?
For the updates, I was just curious, do you know how many of those are Travis CI versus Google?
No, not really. I don't have like all their IPs, and they, yeah. I think we should have a custom user agent for them somehow. Would be nice. But so he was asking, I don't know if you heard in the back, like if I know how many of these are from Travis CI, and I don't know. Like, the thing is, some people also commit their log files, so they do an install, and that doesn't hit packages at all. So it's hard to say, but it's still a lot somehow. All right. Then at the end, I have all these like system metrics, which is really not nice right now, because you have like these 3 on top and the one on the right there are just for CPU. And as you see, like, you have the user percentage, the system one, and then the idle, etc. And like all these combined, they're 100%, right? They're just your entire CPU. So it would be nice to have them on one graph with different colors. but this is not really possible right now in Kibana, so I have 4 charts. And it's a bit stupid because they always look like a reversed of the other, but yeah, that's how it is. Okay, then we have network stuff. I mean, it's all fairly similar, so I won't go over everything. What did I want to say there? I don't know. Oh yeah, that was just the week view, like just so you see a bit more, like data over a few days. Sorry. Yeah, that's one of those examples of when I fuck up, I just lose all the data. I did these screenshots like a few weeks ago, so now it's much more stable. No, but no, actually, I think this one that wasn't a full outage because, as you see, there's data on the Redis one, and this one is a process input, so it polls every second or something for the amount of requests. So I think that was just the log file thing failed. Like I don't know what anymore, but yeah, just restarting it probably fixed it. So yeah, it's I think it's in version 0.4.2 right now. So you know, yeah, you get what you deserve, I guess. So I want to just show a few examples of inspecting things and like what kind of value we can actually get from there. So one thing I noticed while working on it was this like huge peak, for example, and it's interesting to like that you can actually spot these. I mean, otherwise I would have no idea, right? If I have to go and check the Redis info every second to see what's going on, nobody's going to do that. So there, at a glance, you see that something was different at that time. So you can go and check it out. And like if you just zoom in, we see that it's actually only for 10 seconds or something. There's a massive amount of requests per second. And you see that it happens around 3:45, and it happens every day around 3:45, and that's because I have a cron job that does like aggregation of all the download statistics and stuff like that on the site. So it does like a gazillion queries for every package and adds everything. So it makes sense. Nothing to be scared of in this case, but it's just it's interesting that you can easily see it, I think. Another example is that I thought that like that's the first thing I noticed when I started using it, and I thought it was really weird that there's this blue, like consistently every day there's this little blue wave that comes, and the blue is this redirections or not modified, so like all the 300 range of HTTP status. So it looks like someone is requesting a ton of stuff that is just not been modified recently. And there what I did was using this derive panel in Kibana. I don't know if you can see that at all. I guess, well, it doesn't matter. There is a sort of plugin there you can use where you say just like generate queries based on the data. So it's just like it's deriving queries from the data set. So you can ask for, in this case, I asked for the IPs and like the three most, the three most present IPs in the log of this day or whatever it was. So, so you see it just generated up there those queries, and then from that, what is pretty interesting is you see, okay, like, so you kind of filter out the noise of everyone else using the site, and you see just this big orange block, which corresponds to the blue here. And then I check the IP, and it's, well, all the IPs actually. So, I mean, this one is fairly, it's just like one block, they run their thing, and then they're done. Then the other two are a bit more worrying, because they seem to run, like, all the time, not just, they're in the noise of the, like, they're not doing so many requests, so I didn't spot it, but it's actually running every, what is it? That's 10 minutes, so yeah. Every 10 minutes, and this one every, I don't know, 5 minutes. So someone is happy doing requests out there. And so the people to blame are, in order of appearance, we have version I, which is, like, if you don't know it, they show like version statistics, and like also I think they have notifications for when you should update your dependencies or something like that. So that's the big block there. They just scan the entire site, I think, at that time. Then Silverstripe, I think they have a, like it's a CMS, and I think they have their own site that shows all the plugins they have. So they kind of collect the information from packages, and that's the green one. So I don't think they really have to do that every 10 minutes, but yeah, so it goes. Then the third one is really weird. Like, I don't really get it, but it's the Swiss Teletext office. I mean, that's all I could find about this IP, is that it belongs to the Swiss Teletext company. So, do you know Teletext? Like, I don't know, the young ones maybe not so much, but it's like, you know, this weird pre-internet thing that was on the TVs. And I mean, they have a website, and they, like, you can actually access the whole teletext on their website if you want. But I really wonder what they're doing. Like, I didn't have time to look into the exact requests they do, but it seems interesting. I'm glad if they're using Composer somehow, I guess. Anyway. Then the other dashboard I have is Heka. Like, it has its own dash thing, which is called Dasher. And like, I didn't play a lot with it, so right now I just have the standard setup, which is like showing you how many messages were processed, and like the amount of free space in the pipelines you have. So I don't remember exactly which the input recycle chan means, and like they're like the channels in Go that accept messages, and then like you define a space for like a buffer space, how many messages you can have in the queue that, and then it starts dropping them, I think. So this, I took the screenshot. I just hit the 20-day graph on purpose to stress a bit Elasticsearch. So you see it's slowly filling the queue, and down there the Elasticsearch output is completely full and kind of going critical. But the rest of the time, this is like, it's pretty fast. So all the numbers are very boring. It's always like 100 free, and like everything is instant. So it's, but what you can do, and like this is not mine, that's from the Mozilla guys. So they started building their own dashboard graphing stuff, and so these are their aggregated request log, I think. So you see it's like 60 seconds, so data points are 60 seconds aggregated for the last day. And so, yeah, they have up here the bandwidth that's used, and then the amount of requests. And then they have one that's aggregated over 60 days. So there it works a bit more like StatsD does, where you have these windows, or like most of the old system monitoring tools work, where they store data for n days with this aggregation, and then it's a rolling thing. And when it goes out of the graph, it's just gone. So this is, I think it's pretty cool. Like, it's very early stages, but it's getting there slowly, and yeah, like there are new things coming there. So I hope we can use that more, and maybe less of Kibana, because Kibana is nice, but I think the guy doing it is completely overloaded right now. Like, there are tons of pull requests waiting, and I mean, he seems to have too much to do. So I hope the Mozilla guys working full time can do a bit better, maybe. We'll see. So I still wanted to have a few slides about Composer, right? Because no, but I thought, like, I was just looking at numbers and I thought it was a bit interesting, so I wanted to share the numbers. Maybe you don't care. We'll see. So I mean, it's obviously with packages, we have a pretty good data set of many things PHP. So I think it's good to use this data somehow. So I want to present it. So these are extracted from, again, like those get slash packages.json. So it means it's only people using Composer, and it's only on machines that actually do updates, right? So it's not exactly representative of anything real, I guess, but it's like it's a number and it's still interesting. So I mean, there we clearly see the problem of like 5.3.3, that's Ubuntu stable, the last one, and 5.3.10. I'm not sure which distro has that, but maybe it's the latest Ubuntu, something like that. The 12.10 then, or? Okay, could be. So I mean, but the 5.4 there is catching up nicely, and can you see the numbers in the back? Good. So I won't bother reading everything. Huh? But like this is pretty interesting. But mostly, I think if we look at the major versions, then it's really cool. Like 5.3 is still a lot there. It's a bit sad. I don't know what's up with the 5.7, 5.6. I mean, the 5.6 kind of makes sense. It's the current dev, like the upcoming version. The 5.7, actually, I think it's the master branch, right?
That's Joe Watkins doing tests.
Well, yeah, but I think like officially the master branch is now like called 5.7 because they branched out 5.6. So that could be it. But yeah, it looks a bit weird. But clearly it's not massively used, so not to worry. There is obviously nothing before 5.3 because Composer doesn't run there. So as I said, like it's a certain representation of the population. It's not everyone. But I hope there is not much 5.2 anyway. But 5.4 being at 50%, I think that's cool. Like, means maybe there is hope we can drop 5.3 support, like someday. Probably not for Composer, but for Symfony or something would be cool. Then the operating systems, I think that's pretty interesting as well, because so I have two numbers. Like this one is, as I said, from the Composer updates. So there we see 80% Linux, and then like the rest is shared Windows OS X. So Darwin is OS X. And then I don't know, like there's also weird shit going on towards the bottom. But yeah. Probably, yeah, it's the teletext guys are running it, yeah. So yeah, I mean, but it's interesting. It clearly shows that like servers or like dev environments are clearly Linux, because like you have the 80% there. That's definitely winning. But if you look at the browser statistics for like just visits on the website, there we get like kind of different numbers. So it's like Linux is more than 20%, and the rest is sharing the rest. So I think this is pretty interesting, and I also think like it's a good reminder that, you know, every platform exists and it's used by a lot of people actually. So yeah, multi-platform stuff, like don't do just a script that works on your machine. Like, yeah. So a quick word about StatsD, because I really felt bad that I put it in the title and then I was like, don't really want to use it in the end. So yeah, I didn't want to disappoint everyone, because I thought, like, who knew about Heka coming like before you saw the title or before, like, okay, one? Okay, so you came for StatsD, no? Damn it. All right. So StatsD, I can show you later. I don't know like what the time is, but okay, not so much time. I'll maybe show you quickly. But the problem I had is that there is a StatsD input for Heka, and then there is a Whisper output that like Whisper is the data format used by the StatsD database. And so you can output directly with that, and in theory you would just have to install Graphite, which is the UI for StatsD. And that didn't work. For some reason the Whisper output is just not working. It outputs messages, but I don't get them, so yeah, I didn't have time to dig into it, so I ended up using the Carbon output, which just forwards to a Carbon server, which is the server part of the StatsD stack, which just accepts data and then writes it to disk. So with that, I could get things going and like started logging things in the packages code base. And there I wanted to mention this bundle because, I mean, StatsD, the protocol is extremely simple. It's very, like, you just post a number via UDP. So like it's just one packet that has a number in it, a label, and like a type if it's a counter or a gauge or something like that. So yeah, you could argue that you don't really need a huge library or anything, but there is a bundle anyway that allows you to just grab this service and send data fairly easily. So I would check that out if you're interested in StatsD. Yeah, I'll keep going and then maybe I'll show the stuff later. So while I'm here as well, I wanted to rant about something because I have your attention maybe. There's one thing that really annoys me, and it's like I'm guilty of that as well, but I see it a lot in Symfony and in like things around, that people throw exceptions, and mostly it happens with the unexpected value exception, but also with others. And they say, you know, invalid value. And yeah, like this is extremely unhelpful. You know that the problem happened, so you know where, but you don't know what exactly happened. Like you don't know what the value was, and yeah. So I often like stumble upon that because every cron job failing in the company gets to my mailbox. So yeah, when you get stuff like this, you're like, okay, so I'll just wait until next time it happens, and like, maybe I'll be there to look at the numbers. But I mean, yeah, it's not so fun. So just like as an example of how to fix this, I mean, this one is my fault, so I'm not blaming anyone, but you know, it just said like a meter with existing pre-computed measurement should have raw measurements before that date. And you're like, okay, like I know what this means, but which meter was it? And like, so I ended up fixing the code and rerunning it, and then I could finally debug what was going on. So I think really just try to think of that when you throw exceptions, like attach enough information so that they are actually meaningful. Yeah, so just the current state of things, like as I somewhat mentioned, it's definitely still very much beta, alpha, whatever you want to call it, like it's not stable. But the Mozilla guys, like they have, I think, 3 different persons that work on it. I mean, they don't work full-time on it, but they're full-time operations guys, and so they do spend quite a lot of time on it. So it's moving at a decent pace, I think. And to me, it's already good enough for many things. Like it's, you know, as I said, I had problems with StatsD, okay, but all in all, it does the job. And now I have like one tool that kind of does everything instead of having to learn 15 different tools and install them all, and then like at the end you're kind of lost. So I think it's worth looking at, but maybe wait a bit if you don't have the nerves. Although, I mean, it's also a good opportunity to learn Go if you're a bit sick of PHP and want to do something else in the weekends. because if you start using it, you're gonna find bugs. So, so you have a good opportunity to fix them. Then a quick word on upcoming stuff. We have the SMTP output that's already in, so it will come in the next version definitely. So that would be to send emails when something happens. So you would put put a filter on top of it to maybe look at the numbers, and if something is wrong, just send a message of some type that this output will catch. As I mentioned, the TCP output is clearly not there yet, but there are many things planned for that. Composable dashboards, that is like right now those graphs I showed you, you can only have one per page, so it would be nice to be able to kind of combine things. Then there is this open TSDB, I don't know if you know it, but it's sort of just collecting scripts to like that generate system metrics. So once we have a parser for that, I can throw away all my hacky scripts I did and actually use something that exists already, and it's probably a lot more stable. Then the UDP output, I'm really waiting for that, and I'll try to do it myself at some point, I think, because this TCP problem that doesn't reconnect when there is a problem, it really sucks. Like, it's just not fun. And then there were talks once upon a time of having a JavaScript sandbox. So the sandbox being like for the plugins. So right now you have a Go sandbox and a Lua sandbox. So having a JS one would be an idea and probably would be nice for lots of people, but right now it's not really happening. Like, nobody is working on it. So then yeah, a few links if you want to check them out later. And if you want to come on IRC, that would be nice because they're all in San Francisco, so I'm always alone there, except in the evening. It's pretty boring, so come join the party. And thank you. So just quickly, I think I have 3 minutes left, damn it. Because I have that's the live version of it, like if you want to see. It's not photoshopped. But no, what I wanted to show is, so yeah, that's the other one. As you see, like that's the normal state where everything is just all good, and it's been running for a while. Didn't crash in like 24 million records, so that's good. And that is the current, that's the Graphite thing I have, which, that's the other problem with StatsD, I think, is that this is ugly as hell. Like, it's not nice to use, and the charts are not very readable, I think. Like, they don't clearly say like what one data point is. Like, you can kind of see, okay, that's 1 day, so I guess it's an hour because there's more or less 24 data points. But I mean, what the hell? This is. I think it could be on the graph. So I don't know. Maybe there are other Graphite alternatives for StatsD. I don't know if anyone knows of that. No. But the goal, I think, to me, would be to implement that in the Heka Dasher thing, so you can just output to the Whisper database and just render it there. I think that would be nice to have it like JavaScript charts and not some weird image that's generated. Yeah, so if you have any questions, like one question maybe. Yep.
I have a question. Somehow related to this. I saw the packages downloads graph on the packages site.
Yes.
And there's a huge drop of downloads at some point. I don't know. Can you show it? Not on your presentation.
Oh, you mean on the site?
Yeah.
Shit, I don't see anything. No. Okay, so this you mean?
Yeah, I think so.
So that's the explanation. It says the last data point is for the current month, and what the fuck? Just go away. So.
It's kind of different because it was not the last month, but it was somehow in the middle. But
That's weird, but I mean that's a drop a bit, but it was February. Okay, I don't know, maybe a bug. It happens. Also, if someone wants to fix this graph, that would be nice. Like, I think it's been broken for a year now. And this one too is not so nice anymore. Yeah. Okay, but I'm not sure. Anything else? No? Okay, I'm being told that goodbye. So, thank you.